I just got mine in CTE. Do you know what that is?
CSV?
No, that's no.
CTE. What is that?
I'm guessing it's something all color ones. It's an Excel file. We're using it at Opulent Life, but it's a way for me to put my information in for my contacts,
Okay,
and then.
So it's a CSV file.
No, CSV just means that it's an Excel file. That's all CSV means. .csv is just common supported values. That's what CSV means.
Okay. But there's a template in eEdge.
Is it eEdge? Because it was linked to me by our office girl.
Okay.
But yeah, there's all kinds of like other Keller Williams stuff on there too, different tabs. But there's one for me on there to keep track of all my spear, and with the drip campaign, and you know, it tells you how many touches, what you've done. You get to pick how many. It's awesome.
Okay, it's not a file I've seen. How about that?
Really? Because
yes.
By the way it's set up, I thought at first it was something Emily set up for us, our COO. But it's definitely like a lot of tabs that they're like all Keller Williams, I would imagine.
Okay, well.
It's CTE 2015 is the name of it. I don't know.
Did you forward that to me?
Yeah.
Great. And that way I can send it out to others to perhaps use. Oh, forgot. Whitney, you still out there? Just
give that to her.
Yeah, I need 20 copies.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, what's another habit? We've got 2 of them. Contacting our Met database, meeting 10 new people a day. Ideas about where you can go meet 10 new people a day? You've got an easy job. You could meet 10 new people that are out weeding their yards.
All day long.
All day long.
All I gotta do is pet the dog.
Okay. And the whole goal is to give them something in return, and that way you can pick up that email and send them your app code.
Yes.
That'd be very
Why
cool.
is it not pulling up?
So how about some other areas that we can find 10 new people a day?
Areas? What do you mean by other areas? Oh, just out.
Shopping, out and about, bank, grocery store,
House shop. Daily
Home
task.
Depot,
Name tag on.
put a name tag on, ready with card in hand, and a notepad. I carry a little tiny notepad that, you know, I can just open up and write down their name and number. Thank you. Yes,
Sure.
please.
No problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So that I've got, or a 3x5 card. It's an easy way. Say, could you just put your name and phone number and email address on here so I can send you the link to my app.
See how the show you the tabs. See, so this is the file. I just start off with, you start entering their information, right? It puts it in. And then you tell them how many days you want to touch them. And it reminds you, hey, you have to touch these people in 2 days or in 5 days or whatever.
And this came from whom?
Emily Colvin, she's our COO. She came from Ann Arbor.
Okay, well, it may have been a tool that they had, an Ann Arbor thing, but I would love to make it a Northville thing.
Yes.
We'll rob and duplicate. It's allowed.
Share.
Yes. Whitney, have you seen this Excel file? Have you heard anything about it?
What?
This Excel file that Chris is using?
How many touches you want, how often.
Oh, nice. Where did you get that at?
See? I'm not the only one who's in the dark. And I'm not supposed to be in the dark.
But you know, you pounced on that right away. So
I did. Okay, so now we will definitely.
She did in Ann Arbor, I think. But I thought it was something. I thought it was something that everyone used, though. But
Maybe you
Right.
can forward it to me?
Yeah.
Forward it to me?
Forward it to her, forward it to me. We'll get it forwarded to everyone, and they can
Great
start
idea.
using it. Very good.
Yeah, great.
But the CSV file was a way for you to get it into
That's how you can export, yeah.
eEdge. And so getting it into eEdge, you could set up those kinds of reminders. A little more cumbersome by the looks of that
Okay.
than this. But if
Right.
there are people that you're going to contact on a regular basis,
Right.
I'm not against having it in more than one place. So by all means, but we have to have it somewhere so that we can pick up the phone and call people on a consistent basis and set up reminders of conversations that you had, so the next time you call them, you're creating a nice interactive conversation. You're not forgetting what you talked about the last time, because the more you can remember about the conversation, about what's going on in their life, the more that connection becomes very personal to people. And people buy from people they like. Okay, so third habit.
Preview 10 homes.
Preview 10 homes. How many of you are doing that?
I'm going today. And
Aggressively going to be doing that?
I'm also
We need
taking
to
my
learn the
exam.
market, absolutely. And what's the fourth habit?
10 notes.
10 notes.
10 notes. So we need to be doing that as well. So if you're meeting someone for the first time, a great way is to follow it up with a note. Thanks so much for taking the time to talk to me today. Here's my app code. By all means, download Keller Williams Realty. I'd love to stay in touch. So then what do we move them to? 10 days of pain. So that those people become part of our circle, they become part of our sphere.
Being in a team, can we have the...
Can you have the app?
Can we use the app?
I thought everyone had an app. That's a good question. Ask your leader, your fearless leader.
Right.
I would think that you could, because everything that comes into your database would be part of their database anyway. So using it from your influence is one of the ways you're going to get people
Gonna
using
get it anyways, right?
What?
Right, the way I'm gonna do business anyway.
Right. So when you go into your My KW, does it say team across the top?
No.
Okay. So if you go into the resource, or let's see, which tab is it? Technology tab. Third tab down is your mobile app. So if you have no mobile app set up, you
Go in
just
there
move
and
it
do
from none to Northville, and your app will show up.
App will set up, okay.
Your code. And so by all means, find out and use it, because I find that a very valuable piece, because so many people are out searching mobily. In fact, I think the stat was 90% of people search mobily before they ever contact a realtor. Wow. That means on their phones, on their iPads, they're out and about and they're looking at houses. So they want to use something that's accurate. And you want them to use something that's accurate, because if they're not using an accurate, nope, not that one. Is that,
13 and 14.
today's is not 411. Today's is time block.
13 time blocks.
Oh, accountability?
We have 411. Whitney! All right, time blocking.
So you didn't miss anything.
Oh, we have accountability, check on the 411.
Okay, but there's a number of accountability tabs.
We're number 13 today.
We should be number 12.
No, we
Or,
did,
12.
we did 12 yesterday.
there are several tabs that are out of order, because time blocking is the second accountability piece of the 18 sessions, and we didn't do time blocking yet. So time blocking, is an absolute critical thing.
That must have been 10, the one we missed.
Yes, that's why. Because the accountability piece is coupled with the huddle for brand new agents. So accountability, they could be in any piece, because usually Ignite takes 3 or 4 weeks, and so there's four sessions of accountability. So anyway, so that's why I passed out calendars, because I want to make sure we talk about what that looks like, what we have to do in order for us to continue. So are you blocking off time on your calendar in order for you to
Yes.
have lead generation? Perfect example. So where is that time blocked on your calendar? Did you get a calendar then?
I did.
Okay. You're looking one there? There were, she did 10 of them.
I think she,
What happened to the
didn't
rest
she leave
of them?
extras up there?
Oh, okay, there. Sorry.
Stealing yours.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, so the critical piece is making sure that you have a schedule. How many of you live by a schedule, die by a schedule? Okay, so is it in black and white? Is it on your phone? Is it on your laptop? Is it everywhere? So that no matter where you're looking at a calendar of what you should be doing. How many of you go, oh, I should have been doing this?
Yeah.
Does that happen to you, or just me?
On occasion. Yeah.
It's very easy to happen. My calendar's color coded on my
Right.
computer because I have an Apple. You might be able to do that on Google, but I would definitely encourage you to have it in more than one place. I like the written word. Maybe I'm old school, but I like to see it in black and white in front of me. So I have a desk blotter that has the calendar. I have, when I open up the calendar on my computer, it's got my calendar. If I open up my phone, it has my calendar. How many of you put alerts on your calendars?
Yep.
Sometimes I do a half-hour alert and then I do a 15-minute alert so that I'm not overstepping. We have to be at particular times, particular places, and one of the things that seems to be a terrible habit of real estate agents, they're late for everything. You don't want to be that agent. I love Diana Kokoska's script that says, "Hi, I'm Diana Kokoska. We had an appointment for 1 o'clock, and it's 1 o'clock. So let's have at it."
Right.
I mean, basically announcing that you are on time, because the majority of agents are not on time for things. You don't want to be that person. And so time blocking is absolutely critical. So I would like to do an exercise this morning to make sure that I'm gonna actually collect them if that's all right. You need a copy of them when we're done, but I'd like to take about 10 or 15 minutes and put those key things on your calendar. What is it that you're doing all day as a real estate professional? Because the question that I got given to me as a coach is, are you ready, willing, and able to time block 40, 50 hours a week to build your real estate career? What does that look like? And so this would show me in a week what your plan is. How many days do you work in real estate? How many hours are dedicated to it, and what are you doing in those hours? So I'd like to take just a few minutes. 10 is what it says for the exercise. So go ahead and begin.
This is assuming that we're not doing classes at the
That is assuming that.
So
But
we're not putting in
Ignite classes do dip in my opinion, into our lead generation time. So if you're going to a class, you have to replace that time. So if it's not on your schedule, if it doesn't exist, and if you remove, you have to replace. So just because we have Ignite classes doesn't mean your lead generation stops. It just gets rearranged on your schedule.
So we're writing what we're currently doing or what ideally we'd like it to look like?
I'd like to see what ideally you will plan on doing when you are not sitting in a
All
class.
situated, okay.
Okay. What your intent is. So that then we can put that into play. So on 10:9, there's an example. It says write down what days of the week you work, what hours you work, what you do for lead generation, what your hours look like for your week. So it should show me when you're previewing homes, when you're writing your notes. Bring your calendar, what we're doing for our 40-hour week. Right, consistent. I love calendars that will let you repeat.
Yeah.
Yes.
To put it on once and repeat the process, especially if you want to block it off for forever. It can be on your calendar forever and you don't ever have to worry about it. So I love that.
And this is also a perfect day. I mean, obviously life happens and things, you know, we work in a very,
I'm really glad you said that. So what happens when life happens?
you need to prioritize and whatever the most important thing that you missed earlier in the day, you need to find time to make time.
In the same day
To make
to
it
get
up.
it done.
Right.
Right, because if we erase, we have to replace. Absolute rule if we're doing that. So what kind of things have you got time blocked on your calendar?
Script practice.
Script practice. How many of you picked out a script partner? And it's on both of your calendars.
I already have. I'll have one.
It would be a really good idea to find someone who is a script partner so that you both are on the same page. You're doing it on a consistent basis every single day. Whatever days you have on your calendar, they should be the same days on their calendar, same time. And it should only take 10, 15 minutes. You're picking out a script that you're working on, and then you're going to go into your lead generation and use that script. So the first person that you're making a phone call to would be that script partner. A little bit easier to pick up the phone when you know you're going to get a friendly voice on the other side. So you need to create that accountability piece between you and your script partner and begin that process so that you can get into that kind of a habit. That kind of a habit will help you move into your lead generation time. What else is on your calendar?
I have to base everything I do around meals. I know that sounds strange, but that's how I best optimize me. I mean, if I don't eat, I'm not good. It's like the Snickers commercials. So yeah, so I've got the time that I need to eat.
You turn into somebody
Yeah,
else.
I wouldn't be a very good
Okay.
realtor if I skipped a meal, so.
Okay, so they have to be on your calendar. Okay, what else?
I've got showings and previews depending on, you know, if I don't have showings and previews.
Right? Is that a daily?
Yeah.
How many times do you feel like you do two a day so that you do 5 days
At
to
this
get your
point,
10 in?
the markets that I'm actively working in, I feel that I know pretty well. So anytime a home comes up that I know one of my buyers might have interest in, especially the people I've been working with for a couple weeks now, I just go preview it and then I will send them an email in my follow-up time, just say, hey, I checked this place out. It's got these things that you like. It might be worth going to take a look at when you're available. But as far as homes that I don't think I have anyone interested in, I don't always go see them because
Okay,
they may or may not be there when I'm working with someone that I want to check them out.
okay. But you're finding time to look at 2 minimum daily?
Yes. Well, not daily. I would
Not
say
daily.
2. I do between 5 and 7 a week.
Okay. All right. Especially if you're working in a particular area. You can include showings in that.
In the-
Yeah.
If you're showing,
Right.
preview, same. Except you've got somebody else you have to entertain while you're there.
Well, my showings typically are falling on the weekends just because everyone I work with doesn't have, you know, they can't go out from 1 till 3
Right.
every afternoon to look at houses. So typically I try and time block. Saturdays I shoot for noon to 3, and then Sundays I try to go like 1 to 4, because that's typically when we're going to find open houses anyway. So I try and hit an open house with them and then do a couple private showings for homes and women.
You work 7 days a week?
Pretty much. I try and give myself an afternoon here and there, but yeah, pretty much at this point.
Okay. And so how many people are you working with right now?
4.
4. And they're all looking in a generally the same area?
Two of the people are looking in almost identical neighborhoods. I've been showing the same houses to both of them for a while now. One of the guys is kind of all over the place. He likes the lake areas, he likes Pinckney, he likes Wixom, so I try and get him set for one day so I'm not driving all over the place, and he's fine with that because he's not in a huge rush, but he's pre-approved and ready to go. And then the last person is looking more in South Livonia and Westland, which, you know, I can do that anytime. It's pretty easy to get to. So.
Right. Okay. How's your lead generation time?
I have it blocked off. But
You
if
sound
there's,
like you do it.
Yeah, if there's one time a day that I skim out on what I should be doing, it's that. And it's something I need to get better discipline with, and I know that.
Okay. Well, we have some things on the horizon that are going to help with that. Would you consider yourself full-time since you work every day?
Yeah. I mean, I don't feel that I'm getting full-time results right now, which is frustrating.
Part of that is
The lead gen.
the lack of lead generation. Because you see, once those 4 people have found a house, you're starting all over without lead generation.
But I've got more stuff in the works. Once May comes around, I've got other people. I've got a couple listings that are going to be coming up. But I need to find the now business.
Right, and that's lead generation. Okay. Anybody else have something else on their calendar?
Again, this is my ideal world. In the
Okay,
very near
good,
future.
good. We're going to an ideal world
Yes.
here.
I thought maybe just take 2 days a week to preview homes. So I blacked out Tuesday, Thursday, 3 hours. And then the other 3 days in that time, I just wrote learn the market, whether it be driving through neighborhoods, going through
Doing
MLS.
comparables, right, finding out what properties really should sell for and what it's listed for. Doing market snapshots so that you've got something. How about door knocking? Is that on your calendar?
No, it is not.
No, it is not. Will it be?
Not a great comfort zone for me. I
Okay,
liked
so
what I
doing
heard.
it all together would be a really helpful piece.
Well, you know what, I heard yesterday they were talking about being motivated to door knock because you've got a client looking in a neighborhood. That I could do.
Oh, good.
That I could do.
So let's
because-
find a client.
Let's find a client.
Okay.
Deal.
Perfect deal. So how do you find a client?
Start prospecting.
See how that actually works?
Yeah.
Kind of unique. Kind of interesting that that's how that works. Okay, anything else on your calendar? When are you following up with people that you're working with?
Every evening from 6 to 8, I do follow-ups.
There we go.
I've always been on, using the call system I use. It's easy to set up,
Right.
Also, another thing that I've always done, and whether anyone else will do this or not, is Monday mornings from 10 to 11, I've always done follow-ups with my FSBOs, the ones that I'm nurturing, speaking to
Okay,
for
so
a
that's
while.
not really follow-up, that's prospecting, right? I mean, it's a little bit,
But it's
follow-up on a
specifically
specific.
only FSBOs,
That's
and I do
fine,
it
but
Monday morning.
It's during your lead generation
Right,
time.
and I do it Monday morning because I feel like, I always want to see how the
How
open
the
house
open
went
house went,
and
or- yes.
see if they're frustrated enough yet to finally meet with me,
Right,
or
right.
so.
Good plan. So, that could be on your schedule every single Monday. That's part of your lead generation time, because that's also follow-up. Follow-up is
It's lead
still a good thing during lead
Yeah.
generation time. It's
important.
following up with people on a regular basis. Who do you know? Who do you know? Who do you know? Are you going to sell? Are you going to buy? Are you going to invest? Are you going to refinance? Right now, the rates are great. It could be a conversation starter. So you start a conversation with somebody you haven't talked to in a while, and you say, have you considered refinancing? I noticed the rates today are at 3.2. And they say, well, we're not going to refinance because we're going to sell. Oh, really? When are you thinking about doing that? Well, we were thinking blah, blah, blah. So then you're putting that in your notes. Is it, would it be helpful for me to send you a market snapshot? Would it be helpful for you to know what's sold in your neighborhood? Would it be helpful for us to sit down and maybe figure out what you need to do with your house in order to get it on the market and get the best bang for your buck? And so that's a conversation starter, refinancing. So you can use that as a conversation starter. You can use your app as a conversation starter. A market snapshot is a conversation starter. Oh, new property came up in your neighborhood. I just wanted to let you know. Have you seen it? Would you like to preview it to see how it compares to yours, since you said that down the road you're going to be selling? Wouldn't it be helpful for you to know when it sells, how much it sells for? Is it okay if I check back with you from time to time and make sure you know? I'd like to make you an expert in the neighborhood so that when you get ready to put it on the market, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. You won't have any misconceptions. Better if you walk in and they're happy with the number because they've been tracking it too. So that might be a great conversation starter with your for sale by owners.
Right.
They say, I noticed that 2 of the properties that were in the subdivision sold already. How did they compare to yours? Did you go during the open house to look at them?
Right.
Or maybe you call them and say, you know, there's an open house, can I come and show it to you? So that you're creating relationship in any way possible to get them connected to you at the hip, so that when they buy or sell, they're calling you. So what else is on somebody's calendar that we didn't talk about?
Me time.
Personal time, yeah.
Personal time.
Yeah.
Good plan. Because without personal time, are we ready, Freddie, on the button every single time someone calls us? No, we have to take time and chill. How many of you find that the hardest part? Yeah?
My laptop is on, I'm looking at real time.
What?
My laptop is on, I'm looking at real time.
That's been my life for about 40 years.
Right.
We go on vacation. What do? Drive around Scottsdale and find houses on my app. Oh, wow, look at that one. That's $2 million. Oh, that's a fixer-upper for what? Like, oh my gosh.
1.7
What? Yes, it's built into the hill, and you see all these rocks behind it. I'm like, oh, landslide, here we come. I just couldn't do it. I have to have a lake behind me anyway, so, you know, I'm a lake lady. But there was no water. We didn't go anywhere where there was water. It's like, okay, I'm dying on vacation. I got no water. That's terrible. And so some of us are one way and some of us are others. So, but I agree with you. I have my husband addicted as well. So, you know, all of everything that we do is related around real estate. Analyzing properties, analyzing whether it's a good fixer-upper, analyzing whether it's a good rental, analyzing the neighborhoods, analyzing... Just give me a break. I don't want to talk real estate. But it's a rarity not to feel that way. So, all right, so questions. Everybody have your goal figured out. Everybody working, I mean, it's kind of a fluid thing. As you begin, you're gonna pick a number and, you know, try to throw a dart at it by figuring out what that looks like. How many of you have been to the website that we talked about, or the section of KW University, to actually look at what that looks like and play with that 4-piece section? It's under 3612.3. You go to the toolkit. Once you're in the toolkit, there's drop downs. You go down to goals, living your dreams, or living something. Let's make sure you get the right one. It's right there in calendar. And then after you're there, in that drop down, there is a business plan. And when you download the business plan, it has how many transactions are you going to do, and if you put in a number, there's automatically a 36 transactions a year in there. The average real estate agent in Realcomm does 9 transactions a year. I don't know of any average agents in this room. And 9 isn't a lot of money, so think about that. It says in there automatically that there's $250,000 sale which is a $7,500 commission. And it calculates for 36 for 50-50, 50% being listings, 50% being sales. And it comes out to a pretty substantial number. And then most of you are in a position where it's a 60-40 split. So when you look at that, that number is a gross GCI. And if it's a 60-40 split, that 60% of that is what your actual income would be, minus your deductions. Now, how many of you have had a business before? All had jobs instead. How many of you W-2s? Your W-2.
Oh, no, 1099.
1099 always?
For like 6 years now.
So the question, you know what a profit and loss looks like. So with a 1099, your profit and loss, you have an opportunity to have gross income minus your expenses equals your net income, and that's what your taxes are based on. Unlike with a W-2, there aren't any deductions. So that's a huge benefit to being self-employed. I've always been self-employed, never really had a job. Doesn't mean I haven't worked all the time, but basically that W-2 was non-existent, so I could never count on how much that was going to be. With this kind of a program, to be able to program, okay, this is what I have to do, it gives you marching orders for your business. It says, okay, in order for you to have 36 transactions, you have to have this many appointments, you have to have a conversion rate of this much, this is how many listings you will end up with, this is what percentage of the listings will sell, and this is how many transactions you're going to do based on those calculations. That's a huge benefit to be able to see it in black and white and say, okay, my whole goal this week is to get 3 appointments so that I can get 1 listing on the books. Oh, okay. So you can go to your lead generation booth or cubicle or wherever you do your lead generation, and your focus can be, I'm looking for 3 listing appointments. I'm looking for 3 people who want me to come out and meet them, who want to sit down and talk. Because if 1 out of 3 say yes, you may be on track for what you're saying you want to do. And so it will actually break it down for you. Then it takes you to the lead generation model that says, all right, if I have this many people in my database, this is how many people I need to add to my database on a daily basis. And so it shows you what that looks like as well. And then the next one takes you to a budget. Okay, if you're going to do this, this may be what your budget looks like. It also takes into consideration at some point that you're going to hire a personal assistant. So that salary can be backed out right now. And then the last one brings all the pieces together, which are marching orders for you to get your business done. So I would go in there and play with that so that you can see what that looks like, see what the possibilities are, and create that standard for yourself so that you set yourself up for success.
Can you change the end date, or is it always based on a year?
It's usually based on a year. And so since you're going to have, so you could change your numbers of how many transactions you're going to do based on how many months you have left. It's usually for the whole year though. And so then you can also look at the transactions that you had to see if you would have been on track and what you have to do to catch up if you weren't on track. But if you change it to 24 transactions, it will recalculate the whole thing for you. You're not recalculating. I mean, you're not becoming a math major in order to use this software. And I really like that piece. It helps you. It's very much like the 411, but much more exacting. See, because then what happens is you take that information from that first Excel spreadsheet and you move that to the 411. Say, okay, this is what my marching orders are each month based on my my gross number that I want to have for the year. This is what I need to do monthly. This is what I need to do weekly. And week 1, if you don't do everything you're supposed to do week 1, they have to move to week 2. So now if you have to double up, say you don't do lead generation 3 out of 5 of the days, you gotta do some catch up in week 2 in order to get your numbers to match what you're talking about. And the more you do your lead generation, the more result you'll get from it, so you may have less calls that you need to make in order to get those 3 appointments or 4 appointments. One of the gentlemen that I met when I was at family reunion recently knew his numbers to a T. He knew his whole business model was based on doing 3 transactions a year, or 300 transactions a year, which resulted him $1 million in commissions. His whole lead generation was door knocking. He knew that he needed for the year to do 21,000 door knocks to get 7,000 people that he could talk to end up with 300 transactions. So he split it up daily, said, okay, this is what I have to do. He got up in the morning, he went into the office, gave his personal assistant what he had done the day before for follow-up and those types of things, and then he went out and he knocked from noon until 4 o'clock, stopped at the house, had a bite to eat, and if he had not knocked on enough doors for his ratio for the day, he went back out and knocked some more. And he was consistently, and he had done $1 million in transaction commissions 5 years in a row. He knew exactly what his business plan looked like, what he had to do, and what the result had to be in order for him to meet his goal. Great business plan. He doesn't have a business plan that looks like this. You know, you have a couple transactions, and then you run out of clients, and then you're back to lead generation, and then you're got a couple clients, and then he knew exactly what he had to do every single day. Great marching orders. Great business plan. You can create that business plan for you. You just need to be very focused on what it is and design what that looks like for you, based on the hours you're going to put in, based on who you're going to work with, based on the commission structure. I mean, if you're looking at showing properties at $100,000, you're going to have to do a lot more transactions with just as much effort. It doesn't take any more effort to do a listing for $500,000 as it does for a listing for $100,000, or working with a buyer that's $100,000 versus $500,000. No difference. So if your focus is doing less transactions at a higher dollar figure, you can actually change that in that model. You change it from $250, put in the new commission amount, and it will recalculate everything for you. So you may find you only need to do 24. Maybe you only need to do 12 if you do $1 million houses. What's that goal look for the year? And start building what that looks like. We like you to do it in October so that you're all set, your marching orders, you know exactly what you're doing. And we are going to begin in October this year, but we're in April. So between now and the end of the year, you have a designed amount of money that you'd like to come into the coffers in order for you to have a successful year. What does that look like for you? And so creating that hyper focus on your plan and what your strategy looks like is absolutely critical. All of you came to the class about your big why. Hopefully you're continuing to work on that. It's an evolution. Many of you want to have X amount of dollars in order to do X, Y, Z. It's beyond that, because you know that may happen in a year or two. So what does it look like down the road? Making sure you know what your big why is that will help you stay motivated till you get everything you ever dreamed that you would want. That big why is going to be a big piece of how you stay focused. If I didn't have one, I wouldn't get up every day. Just that simple. I mean, I have a home at the lake, I have a home here. I'm comfortable, my kids are all grown, they have what they need. I don't have big things that I need. But if I didn't have a big why, I might just, sit down and relax a little. They have the big needs. And I want to be there to make sure that happens. Make sure they have food on the table every day. And if you were in my class, you know that's Thailand. You know that's an orphanage. And they still have needs. And if I don't go to work and I don't send the money that I promised I will send, sometimes they won't eat. That's not acceptable. I can't live with that. So that brings tears to my eyes. That gets me up every day. That gets me jazzed about, what can I take them this year when I go? How can I make their life better without disrupting their life? Because some of them are very satisfied with what they have and where they live. And your first trip would actually kind of, oh, I need to buy this, I need to buy this, I need to buy this. They don't have those things, and they don't need them.
Because they don't never have them.
I don't need to change their life so that it creates a standard of living that's different than their comfort level is. But I do need to make sure they have what they need. And that's very basic, very basic. So, pretty exciting. So what results did you achieve this week when you take inventory? Did you get an appointment? Do you have another person that you're working with? And if you look in the mirror, did you do the things that you needed to do? Was the answer to the question, in order to be success in real estate, are you ready, willing, and able to put in 40, 50, 60 hours a week in order to be a successful real estate agent? Because that's what it takes to build it. I mean, you hear people now talk about, in the office, if you're around very much, you hear people talk about, well, most of my business is referrals. And how long it took to be that way?
Right.
Long time. And it probably wouldn't have taken as long if I'd done the things I'm teaching you to do every single day. Because there are people that I lost along the way because I lost connection with them. Shame on me. It wasn't their fault. The stats say most people, I think it's like 75 or 80% of the people out there who have done a real estate transaction with a real estate agent said that they would repeat using them if they knew where they were. Whoa, that's bad news. That's enlightening. Think about that. Because if we're not the one staying in contact, it's not their responsibility to stay in front of us for us to keep remembering them. So once you develop some people that are in your sphere that give you leads, how are you going to take care of them? Like gold. They're little nuggets of gold. I have an airline stewardess that sends me leads all the time. She has a very nice Pandora bracelet, and she needs to have some more beads put in it. And so we go to lunch, and I bring her some more beads, and she's excited. And think about that. Take care of those people. And it's not the result that you get with the client they give you. Think about that. It's the effort that they put forth to give you a lead in the first place. What you do with it is your problem. Whether you sell them something or not, whether you list something or not, has nothing to do with the reward. It's the effort of, oh, I know somebody that can help you. Thanks for saying that. Here's the reward. So again, $25 is your limit that you can deduct. Beats cost about that. So put that in your budget. Say, find 10 people in my database who are going to consistently lead generate for me. Because that's what they're doing. Every time anybody says, oh, I need to find a house to rent, she goes, oh, you need to call Debbi. Thanks. So put it in the budget, because it's going to happen. If you treat them right, it will continue to happen. And so your whole goal is to build a database that is feeding you 300 transactions a year. That needs to be about 19,000 people, 1,920 people. The ratio is 12 people that you talk to in your database, 2 of them will potentially give you a lead. If you calculate those numbers and you want to do 300 transactions, that's the best way for you to get there. Because it's 1 to 50 from strangers. So that means all week long, we're picking up 10 names a day. 1 out of those 50 people you met that you added to your database is going to give you somebody. Unless, how can we change them from being strangers?
Unless we convert them.
How do we convert them? We talked about that the other day. That 10 days of pain. That 10 days of cultivating that relationship so that they become your new best friend. That turns them into a Met. That 10 days of pain. So you want to have that conversion, you want to get really good at that conversion. The last 4 or 5 transactions I've done were truly leads, which is really a very difficult conversion. And I returned a phone call. I mean, within minutes of it coming in, I showed them a house. They bought the house they called on, and it was a $200,000 sale. Great conversion. I duplicate that as often as possible. This week, yesterday, I picked up a new client who called and said he wants a condo, he wants to be in this subdivision. I got out of my comfort zone. I printed all of the rentals in that complex, and I was all set to door knock on all of the ones that were rentals to see if they were interested in getting it sold. Or my next step was going to be to send a letter out. I found one that there were painters in. And I said, oh, gold. Knocked on the door, said, are you re-renting? Well, we're painting it for someone. I think he's going to sell it. Yes. So I'm showing it this afternoon. I may show him one house. He's buying one house. Those conversions are idyllic. But you don't want to be out showing how many houses in Pinckney.
Right.
How many houses in
Not many
Pinckney?
there. I can tell you every colonial in Northwest Livonia.
Okay. So I play game with myself constantly. I want to sell a house five shows or less. And if I'm at 6, I'm really rethinking my thought pattern. Okay, what did I miss? How did I miss what they were looking for? Now sometimes it's just the market doesn't have it for us. But a lot of times it's that you missed something and that one house is sitting out there ready for him and you didn't even show it to him because you didn't think outside the box. I met someone else yesterday and it went out last night to show him the house, and it wasn't the house they wanted, but it gave me an opportunity to actually talk to them about buyer's agency and why they would want to work with me, and sent them home with it so they could read it over. I said, I'll show you houses tomorrow night. I want some answers. So this one had a sump pump. You don't want a sump pump. This one had a basement. You could care less about a basement. This one didn't have a lot of updates. You want granite counters. I want to know what that looks like, so that when I'm perusing through MLS, I'm knowing exactly what we're looking for. Because if I can narrow down how many houses I'm showing, I mean, my goal for them, they've seen one, they only get 4 more. We're going to find it. And hopefully we're going to find it tonight. Day 1, day 2, done. And so our goal is to get so focused on what it is that they want that our time blocking, you know, you give them 2 hours, and that 2 hours, if it made you $6,000, $9,000 in one commission, and you spent 2 hours showing them houses, you're making pretty good money an hour. I play a game with myself. What did this transaction cost me? How much was I worth an hour for this? And if I am not happy with the result, I'm changing what I do the next time. So you're tweaking, tweaking, tweaking. In fact, long before I ever knew about buyer consultation, I did buyer consultation. So, okay, what do you absolutely have to have? What are your absolute needs? And then give me a list of the wants. So if they'd say, well, I absolutely have to have 3 bedrooms, I absolutely have to have 2 baths. Okay, does 2 baths mean 1 full bath and 1 half? Or do you mean you have to have 2 full baths? Oh, well, 1.5 will be good.
Right.
Oh, good to know. Because if you put 2, it's not giving you the 1.5s, and that may have been the exact house they needed.
That's what just, that's actually literally what just happened with me with my first buyers, that I've known them personally for years. They saw a post I shared on Facebook like 2 weeks ago about one of our open houses, wanted to see it, so they contacted me, whatever. Now they're my clients, and where they want to move, there's no 3-bedroom, 2 baths where they want to be in Milan. And I'm like, guys, like,
Is 1.5 enough?
yep. Oh, well, you know what? Yeah, we would consider that.
Exactly.
Well, bing, bing, bing. Here's 4 more that, you know, now will meet your criteria.
Yeah.
Like, you told me before you absolutely would not go under 2 bathrooms. It had to be 2 full bathrooms. Now all of a sudden, you can
Yeah,
do 1.5.
see, buyers are liars. They don't know what they want.
Right.
They don't know what they have to have. Here's what I know. They have to have a bath.
Right.
They
Right.
could have a basement that could have another
Right.
half bath.
Right, and now instead of the 2-car garage,
Yeah.
well, we could be okay with a 1-car.
Okay,
Well,
does
at
it have to
first
be
you said
attached?
it had to be, right.
Well, yeah, we really want it attached. Do you
Right.
want it attached, or do you need it attached?
Right.
There's a
2
big
different
difference.
things. Yeah.
2 big differences. You know, so the lady yesterday, she said, I want granite counters. And I said, so the ones that were in this house, which were Corian, which were in really nice shape, wouldn't do? So, no, they do. So I'm not going to put granite as one of the search words.
Right.
You know, you can be as specific as you want to be, but I don't recommend it. Sometimes people will say, well, I have to have 3 bedrooms. You say, well, what about if it was an unfinished attic that you can finish
Right.
for that 3rd bedroom? So now I'm putting 2 plus,
Right.
1 plus for a bath.
Right.
Do you have to have a basement? Well, we'd like a basement, but if it has a family room, if it has 2 places, so I'm asking questions. Who's going to be the people who live in your house? Okay, well, we've got teenagers and we've got a little one, so we need a couple of places for people to gather. Okay, so is a living another space besides that? Is a family room good for, instead of a basement, rec room? Yeah. How do you feel about being on a slab? Or does it have to be a crawl? Does the garage have to be attached? Or would it be okay if it was there? Well, I'd really like to take the groceries in. Well, sometimes even 2-car attached garages don't have a doorway into the house.
Right.
There's a whole subdivision in Livonia that have tri-levels and the garage is attached, but you can't get into the house from it. There's a lot of them like that. You can't get into the house. So all of a sudden, that's a big issue. Well, we needed to know that before we came and looked at 4 of them here. So you need to find out what those deal killers are. So, any ahas from today's class?
I didn't know that you only had a subdivision with.
He says,
There's a whole subdivision in Livonia, doesn't have any basements too. It's 1 or 2 houses in the subdivision that have basements.
Is that backs up the rotary?
Yeah. In Fairfield?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mayfield, they shouldn't have them over by Hines and Wayne.
There you go.
That's the dumbest thing.
Yeah, and they don't have sump pumps. It's like, really? You didn't think about this? That whole area floods. What are you talking about? And so, and educating your clients. She said, I don't want a house with a sump pump. I'm like, I think you do.
What's the justification?
Well, she
They're going-
travels. No, she travels. She's gone through for 3 or 4 months at a
if
time.
it breaks, she doesn't.
And she's concerned if it backed up. I'm like, well, you can do a backup. Well, what if there was no power? I said, well, you can do a backup with a battery.
But if the sump pump is backed up, that's because it needs to be working. And if there was no sump pump, then you have nothing you can.
No plan
Yeah,
at
nothing
all.
to begin with.
Right.
Right. At least with the sump pump, you have that extra, you know.
Right. So getting her past that is an education, but then you have to have a little bit of education to be able to do that. So if you don't know information about sump pumps, get some information about sump pumps, because there are definite systems that will give them the opportunity to have protection where they wouldn't have any. Of course, you know, you've got 100-year, never had a flood, and all of a sudden, Dearborn Heights down by Lincoln, which has never flooded ever, and they're all slab houses. You have a flood there, that's a problem. Because there's no sump pump, for sure, if it's a slab house.
Right.
So,
Some of those areas in Dearborn Heights are like good zone.
but.
Oh, yeah. I lived in it. I just moved
Yeah,
from a house in
on the
Dearborn
east side,
Heights.
on the east side, west side of Telegraph. That whole area needs flood insurance.
No,
South of-
the
south
east
of
side,
Cherry Hill.
north of Van Born, east of Pelham,
Yeah,
is a
that needs flood
total
insurance.
flood zone. Yep.
Yeah, but it's never
I
flooded.
mean, what? Yes, it has.
Oh,
I
no.
literally just lived there, like 2
Oh.
feet of water last year.
Oh.
Last fall, we had 2 feet of water. The whole road, they blocked off my street, like with barricades. You couldn't even go down it. Literally, the water was up to my waist. We took my
On
neighbor's
the
boat.
east side of
That-
Telegraph?
East side of Telegraph, so
Yeah, it
east
was
east
bad
of Van
this year.
east of
It was
Pelham, north of
bad. Rain. It
Van
was-
Born,
remember when it-
right in the pocket, right where 39 is.
Everywhere flooded.
M39
Ah.
flooded, and in 2 years before that, it had flooded too.
Right, I had one over on Lincoln for
Right.
years. Was a 2-story on a slab.
Yeah.
Got a ticket.
You know, I'm sure that was bad.
It was bad. I couldn't get out of my driveway for 2 days. Literally, I was stuck in my driveway.
Okay, so knowing that, is flood insurance expensive?
It raises that, it was 14.
It almost doubles your, doubles your
Yeah,
insurance
almost
budget,
doubles the
because you
bill.
have to have a
Really?
regular insurance policy plus a flood policy. Yeah, so if you've got a $1,000 insurance policy, you've got another $1,000 flood policy, you could now not qualify for that house. So it's good to know going in,
Alright.
I don't even target it.
right? So you know where to find out.
Yeah, once you apply for the mortgage.
No, actually, on Realcomp, there are extra links so that you can look at flood maps and you can find out. There are ways to go online and look up floodplains and put in the address. You also know how to find rural development areas. Go to the rural development website, and there's a way for you to look up an address to see if it qualifies for rural development. Rural development, it's a good program, it's zero down. And they're not as hard on the property as FHA, but it has to be in rural areas. And they can't have more than $35,000 in assets after the closing's over. So it is for people who are trying to get started, trying to get a loan, trying to get into a program, but it is a great program. I've sold a number of houses on rural development and really helped people get into a house where they might not have gotten into as nice a property without it. About the same kind of qualifying as FHA or MISHDA.
What, that's like a 640, 650?
That's a Kevin question.
When you say rural development, they have to have the house built?
No, rural development means it's out in the country.
Rural.
It's in a more rural area. South Lyon has some.
The outskirts of Ypsilanti and
Yeah,
Lyman.
Ypsilanti. I just sold one in Fowlerville. It fit into the criteria, but they're going to have too much money after, so they don't qualify. So now we're going to conventional.
What do you mean too much money?
They can't have more than $35,000 in assets, liquid assets, after they close. So they're going to walk away from their closing with about, on the sale of their house, with about $45,000. So they got a tax return that added, and so they're going to have too much money.
Now with your, if you look at the interest on the loan, would they be making money after a while if they took $10,000 less for the sale of their home? When you think about how much interest you pay on a note over the course of 30 years.
Right.
Interest rate's going to be about the same.
Well, but, right, I'm saying $10,000 in interest on a home loan is a drop in the bucket. If you're-
Right, they could have put that as a down payment in addition to, you can put money down if you want, and then only have $35,000 in cash. They wanted a little more of their money available because they're buying one that needs some updates, and it's out in the country, so they wanted to make sure everything's up to snuff. So there were some other reasons that went into it, but you could do some things like that. You could put some money down, I believe.
I was just saying.
It's a Kevin question.
Yes.
Can you put some money down on your rural development so you don't have more than $3,500 down? Maybe.
Just because I'm a sticks buyer, it might be something you'd be interested in.
Yeah, so what you do is you go to the rural development, look at the address, and it will actually pinpoint whether it's eligible or not. But it's a great loan. My son bought one out in the country on 15 acres. It was an old farmhouse, and I thought, oh my gosh, that farmhouse will never go FHA. It went rural development, no problem. It had some barns and some things that were questionable about, really? And no problem. So rural development expects that kind of housing, and if you want acreage, that's one of the ways to get it. Because usually rural development has acreage, at least an acre or more. But the address is easy to look up. Okay. What opportunities for change or improvement in your schedule surfaced today? Got some ideas of what that is?
Just making sure you hold yourself more accountable. Because I like to feel, or I like to think that I'm really good at time blocking. But like you said, or like he said, you know, if he doesn't eat, he can't do it. You know, like for me, if something else comes up, like I'm like Annette says, like the squirrel, you know, like shiny object, like
Right.
I'll go do that. So I need to be better about getting myself back on the schedule. Not so much keeping it, because obviously if I'm doing something else, it's obviously important as well, but I'm not good at getting myself back and keeping.
Right. So if you erase it, you have to replace it.
Right, and that's what I'm not
Right.
good at. So I need
So
to be
that
better.
rule has to be in front of you.
Right.
If I erase it from the schedule, if I move it from one place to another, if we have Ignite class in the morning and I was supposed to be lead generating, where am I going to fit it in my schedule so that I make sure I still do it?
I just need to get more efficient, so I can give myself more personal time, like a David per se.
Be good. Have a day of rest.
Well, I am.
You have to refresh.
I'm going out of town this weekend.
Good. So who's handling your business while you're not here?
I've got Jim and Donna if there's an emergency, but I'm not leaving until Friday afternoon, and I'm planning on coming home Sunday morning, so it's pretty much
Just a day.
Saturday that I'm good.
Good for you, taking a day off.
Going fishing.
Going fishing. Okay. So, is there anything you'll do differently next week versus what you did this week? Just based on the class, based on the schedule, based on having it mapped out for you. Write it down more.
Be consistent.
Be consistent. I like that. Consistency is a key because consistency also creates focus. And the focus creates narrowing people's focus so that they can only have so much of your time. I'd play a game with myself if I were you to find out what it costs you to sell a house. Out of your commission, what does it really cost you? You know, what are you spending in gas? What are you worth an hour? One of my mentors, very early in my careers, said you need to find out what you were worth an hour and break it down to 15-minute segments. Okay, what did I do that made me worth $50 that 15 minutes? Okay. Check-in email for 15 minutes would not be one of them. So we want to do that type of activity in a time frame where we can't be talking to someone, we can't be following up with someone, or we can't be showing someone or listing a property. I mean, the things that we need to do, if you spend 15 minutes creating your desk, making sure your desk is organized or your space is organized, take 15 minutes getting ready to lead gen, what could you have produced in that 15 minutes instead? Because you can always clear your desk off when you can't talk to anyone. There are times you can't talk to anyone, right? I would say before 7 and after 9. So those are times to be checking mail, be, you know, sometimes people say, well, I sent you stuff last night, can you look at it? I had a class this morning. This is a priority. I'll look at it when I get an opportunity. So if they needed it looked at last night so that they could do something, they should have thought ahead and done it earlier than that so that they could fit my time frame for checking things. Because it's either before I teach or after I'm done for the day too. So be thinking about that when you're sending me documents, and text me besides. So if you email me something and it's critical, I need to know about that. Because I don't check emails, 15 times a day. I try to stay off there so that I can stay focused as well, because I, believe it or not, have a calendar. And I try to stay very close to what it is. So my lead generation time is different than yours in most cases, because I'm either teaching or I'm helping you with lead generation. So one of the things, and I like you're going fishing because you're going to reward yourself for some of the accomplishments that you've made, but you need to think about that. What kind of reward would you like if you put a schedule together and you followed your schedule for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever that looks like for you? What are you going to reward yourself with for being consistent in your business? Really? You'd have to be very focused.
What did you say?
A Corvette.
A Corvette.
I do it for 6 months and assistant.
For 6 months, an assistant. Is there a dollar figure attached to that as well?
Yeah, well, I know what I need, I know what I want to make, and I know what I need to be making in order to justify that. So I've got that kind of set up. I don't have the full business plan set up, but I know my numbers for what I need to hit to where I can justify that type of expense. But that's the stuff that I'm just horrible at, the details.
Okay, you know that we're working on having office staff here that will help with those things. So that might be a piece that will keep you from having to spend for a personal assistant.
Buy some time.
Buy some time. So maybe you look at it, okay, if I do it in 6 months, and this is the income I have, or if I use front staff to enter all my listing documents, do my flyers, do all of my duties. You could give them a list of things to do, and they'll charge by the hour.
Let's say, is that like an a la carte or an
Yeah.
hourly charge?
Yeah. And so Whitney's working very hard to get all of those pieces in place. They're also going to take over teaching.loop. They're going to take over teaching eEdge. I don't know if you, well, the ones of you who weren't here yesterday, one of the front staff was in class yesterday learning Michael Lewis Marketing Suite. So that when you have questions about it, you're not coming to me for those questions, you're coming to staff for those questions. Will free up more time for me to help you stay accountable. So, because we need to meet once a month religiously for me to know what's going on with you, what I can help you with, what piece of accountability we need to get you to that's going to help you be that productive agent that you want to be. And then our huddles, that's this morning. Does anybody have anything that they've got that they're working on that they have questions about that everyone in the class could benefit from? I know you got yours to the point where your inspection's over and everything went well.
My inspection's over, it went well, and my appraisal came back high.
Yay!
So I'm just waiting.
That's a win.
I know.
Okay. Do you have other clients that you're working with?
They referred me to a friend,
Uh-huh.
so I'm gonna be taking them out.
Okay. And so lead generation would be very helpful at this point to pick up the phone and start talking to people so that you have more than one deal at a time. We need to get good at juggling.
Yes.
So you want to have 2 or 3 leads for listings and 2 or 3 leads for buyers so that you're closing 1 or 2 transactions every month. Would that change your bottom line in your household? So you want to make sure you get good at juggling while you're getting good at building your business. Because the last thing I want to happen is you shut down your lead generation because you're working with 2 people. Not enough. Right now I have 60 coaching students and 8 to 10 classes a week that I teach. And I have 6 people that I'm working with to get to listings and 6 or 7 people for buyers. And right now I have set up 5 closings for May. And busy. So juggling is part of the process. So you have to find time for all of it. It has to be time blocked. There are only certain times of the day that I can even show houses. I have a small window this afternoon that I'm going to go show that condo. And then a small window tonight to go show 2 or 3 houses for them to buy one. So I'm saying, I'm right there with you. We've got to get to the point where that juggling act is something that we can do proficiently and it all fits in the calendar. I have a little struggle with personal time, so I have to take in big chunks, 10 days in Arizona to get the business where you want it, to create that income. In fact, it's kind of funny because I went to Matt's business planning and I put down the number that I wanted to make in income, and it calculated how many transactions, and it's the funniest thing I've ever seen. I'm ahead of that. Like, really? How did that happen? Because I wrote it down. I said, oh, I'm going to have to redo this. This is too aggressive. But amazingly, I think that, what's the college that did the study? top college, I can't think of it, Harvard, yeah, they did a study. People who wrote down their goals versus people who did not write down those goals. And the difference in the income that they had 5 years later was incredible difference. So, focus, juggling, lead generation, calendaring. Calendaring is a big piece of that. Time blocking and making sure you continue to do. Because without that time blocking, there's no way I could accomplish what I'm working on. So that's a key piece. I would go into KW University and look at that model for your business for the year, whether we're in April or not. Because that model has helped me tremendously with focus and making sure I get everything done. You can too. It's just a matter of being focused on what it is you want and what that looks like. Creating a picture of what the end result is. Okay, that's a wrap.
One of these you said?
Yes, I would like those so that I can see and maybe talk to you about them and especially if you're in my coaching, because then I have what your plan is so that we can work on that together.
Anybody else need to use the hole puncher?
I'm gonna do right now.
I promised I would personally bring it back up since I borrowed it.
Use this one.
I told Carolyn, promise, I'll bring it back. I know it had your name on it. And I need to get mine in a binder. They're driving me crazy.
Let me get the surveys. Did they get passed out?
No, not yet.